Hello everyone and welcome back to another Librarians. This episode I will be teaching you how to make a circle skirt. So I've sewn a lot, I've done a lot of patterns, but this is the first time I'm going to be trying to make a skirt without a pattern and just using a couple of measurements and a couple of really simple techniques and items in order to make a perfect basic skirt. It's good for everyday, it's good for costumes, it's just an all-around everyday good skirt. So I'm going to be trying out a few new things with this one, and we're going to find out just how hard it can be to make a simple skirt. So in order to start, there's a couple of things that you're going to need. The first is you're going to need your fabric. If you're a beginner, I definitely recommend getting some sort of cotton fabric. Stay away from stretch or knit materials. They can be a little more difficult to sew. So definitely a cotton or taffeta, faux silk, satin, that type of thing. The other things that you're going to need is I recommend a sewing machine. I don't recommend hand sewing this. You probably could, but it's going to take quite some time and a lot of patience. Other things you're going to need is you're going to need a ruler. I also recommend using a sewing tape measurer, so a sewing tape, and you're going to need that in order to get your waist measurements. So you're going to take your waist measurements and you're going to add 2 inches, and that is going to be the circumference or your waist measurements that you're going to be using in order to math a couple things out. And I'll get to that in just a little bit. Other things you're going to need is some elastic. I recommend getting some 3-inch elastic. That way you don't have to sew in a waistband later. Also, you're going to need some sewing shears, and I recommend you finding something that you can draw on your fabric with. White crayons work, white colored pencils. This, I have a chalk pencil. If you have a lighter fabric, maybe you can use like a marker or something like that, but something that you can mark your lines in. So the very first thing that we have to do is some math, and we're going to, kick it old school and go way back to high school, where we are going to have to use, we are going to have to figure out the radius, and that's going to help us cut the waistband of our circle skirt. So in order to find the radius of it, of course, you're going to use this formula, which is R equals C divided by pi times 2. So what that means is your radius is going to be your circumference, which is your waist measurement plus 2 inches. And then you're going to divide that number by 2 times pi. And that's going to give you the number that you're going to have to use in order to cut out your waistband. The other thing you're going to need is the length of your skirt. Chances are, if you are an adult, you're only going to have enough fabric to make a knee length or slightly below the knee length skirt for the fabric that you have. And so you're going to need the measurement from your waist down to however long you want your skirt to be. If you want it floor length, if you want it knee length, if you want it shorter than knee length, you're going to need that measurement as well. So once you have those measurements, we're going to go ahead and start marking our measurements and cutting out our fabric. So let's go do that. All right, now that we have our fabric, we are going to fold it in half lengthwise and then half again. So you're going to have 4 layers stacked in on one another, and that's going to be making us a full circle skirt. There are other tutorials out there on how you can make a half or quarter circle skirt, but today we're going to be making a full circle skirt. So that means once we've cut it out, it's going to be a full circle, and we won't have to do any more sewing to line up ends or anything like that. So now that we've mathed out what our waist measurement is going to be, from the corner that has all of the folds, so it's going to have the fold on this end and the fold on top, starting from that corner, you are going to measure out whatever number you get for your radius. So I'm going to go ahead and go down, and I'm going to make a mark on one side, and then I'm going to go to the other side where the other fold is and make a mark. Now, from that corner, I'm going to be making an arc. So that's what's going to be making that half circle. So again, when we cut it out, it's going to make our circle of our skirt. So keeping my ruler on the point of the corner, I'm just going to rotate it, and again marking at that same measurement that I got, so I have an easy line to follow when I go to cut it out. And you can use a regular ruler for this, you can use a measuring tape for this, whatever you have that will make it easiest for you. Now that we have our waist cut out, we are going to then move along to doing the length of our skirt. So you're going to be measuring out not from the corner, but from the bottom line of the waistband that you just made. So I want the length of my skirt to be 22 inches. I'm going to then be adding in the length that I just measured. So again, from the bottom line of that waistband mark, I'm going to be measuring down how long I want my skirt to be. And same deal, I'm going to go ahead and make a mark down here. And following the same trend, I'm going to continue on and again make that arc around where my skirt is. And once you have everything traced out, you're going to go ahead and take your sewing scissors and cut everything out. And once you have it cut out, you can see that it's now just a large circle with a giant hole in it. So now it's a very fashionable poncho, but once we're done sewing it, it will make a very fashionable skirt. So let's head on over to our sewing machine where we will continue on. Now that we have our skirt here over at our sewing station, we are going to go ahead and do the very first step, which is to do the hem. So to do the hem, you're going to find the bottom of your skirt. You're going to fold it over about 1/2 inch. And then you're going to sew around, all the way around the bottom of your skirt, and that's going to create that hem for you. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, and now we have our hem finished. So it's almost starting to look like a skirt, but you notice that it's very wide right now. But now we're going to fix that by adding the elastic that's going to make the waistband of our skirt. Now, if you are looking for more of a challenge, you can go ahead and cut out a 3-inch band that is your waist length and sew that in the same way I'm going to be sewing in the elastic, and that's going to give you the same kind of waistband if you're feeling up for the challenge. But this is going to be the fastest and easiest way to add a waistband to your skirt. So the first thing that you are going to need to do is take your elastic and you need to measure out whatever the length of your waist is out of it. The easiest way to do that is to unravel your elastic, wrap it around your waist, and add about 1/4 inch for you to sew together at, and then go ahead and cut it. Easy peasy. I'm just going to take my elastic, let it all fall to the floor, wrap it around my waist where I want my skirt to sit. So I want it to sit about there. And now I'm going to take, tighten it so it's snug, that it's not going to fall down, but I still have room to take my skirt on and off when I need to. I'm going to add about 1/4 inch of where the two ends meet. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut that. So now I have the waistband of my skirt. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put these two ends together, the two raw ends, and I'm going to straight stitch. I'm just going to sew straight down along here, turning this into a circle. And now I have a circle. Easy. So now comes probably the trickiest part of this project. I recommend using either straight pins or clips, whatever you use to fasten your fabric together. Now that I have my circle of my waistband sewn together, I'm going to turn my skirt inside out and fold it in half, so it's at either end. Next, I'm going to take my waistband and I'm going to line it up on either end of the inside of my waistband. So you can see I have it lined up along the side, and I want the waistband all the way inside the skirt. So it's inside, if that makes sense. And I'm gonna wanna make sure that this seam right here is facing out, away from the pretty side of my fabric. Because what happens is when I'm sew along here and flip it up, that's not gonna be on the inside and won't show to other people. So once again, my skirt is inside out, and I'm just gonna line up either side here. And now I'm going to be using straight pins. I recommend that that's what you do. You can use clips if that's what you use instead of straight pins. But I'm just going to go ahead and pin that on either side. So now I have it that way. And I'm going to now rotate my skirt and do the same thing to the other side. So now you can see it's kind of pinned in like a square. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to straighten this out along the 2 pins that I have on either side, and I'm just going to pin them in the middle, again making sure that everything is going to fit in the waistband. Now you might come to a section like this that's a little bit longer than the section here. So I'm just going to bunch it up a little bit, kind of pleat it, or what's called gathering, so that it fits. So you can kind of see how I'm folding it in order to make it fit in that space. So now I have the first section all pinned in and ready for me to sew. Now I'm going to go through and continue on with the rest of it. All right, I have my waistband all pinned in. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to my sewing machine and sew 1/4 inch along this entire edge on the inside. Something important to note is when you come close to a straight pin, make sure that you are pulling it out of your skirt and placing it back in your pin box. Don't run over your straight pins with your sewing machine. It's bad for your machine and it could cause it to break and you could get hurt. So don't do that. But I'm going to continue on sewing. Right, we've sewed the waistband, so we're going to flip this right side out. And ta-da! We have our skirt. So that took us about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to make. This video is obviously going to be a little bit shorter, but that's the easiest and fastest way. I'm really excited that I learned how to just add in the elastic waist here because it makes it so much faster, it's so much easier, and probably a lot more comfortable as well. But as you can see, I have a nice easy skirt that took no time at all, took very little skill. All you have to do is be patient, do a little bit of math, and turns out it's pretty easy to make. So go ahead and see if you can spice it up a little bit. Make it reversible, add some lace. Maybe you want to get super crazy and try adding pockets to it. Who knows? There's a lot of avenues you can take, but this is just the basics on how to make a circle skirt. So go ahead and try it out.